All right. I rather start with saying thank you, God, because the reality of what this is about is they try to block it out. Obviously, I know government entities are running this program, and I'm a test subject in this program. As much as they try to make themselves be perceived in certain ways, I know the reality of things, and I know that every torture I'm going to experience, any pain and suffering I'm going to go through, is because I'm in this program that use test subjects. There are men, women, and even children in this. I will never let these people involved in this program trying to present a false reality and me let them fall into that false reality they themselves created. At this point, it's super obvious. This is not a group of... So there's this, and you're going to hear, there's this consistent psyops or facade that when you put in this program, they try to present. The goal is to try to make you believe, the test subject, the target individual, that this is anything but this mass government running this program. Of course, that makes no sense. Even before I knew what this was about, I knew that governmental entity had to be involved in this. This is not, it's not some rogue private entities doing these things. Of course not. This has to have ties to governmental entities. And then when you hear the testimony, the validations are overwhelming. And you obviously know the Department of Defense is definitely involved in this. The rest is just more of a facade. And then you find out there's a pattern to create a false reality. And then you're going to even hear this man say that they try to make the target individual believe that this is anything by mass government doing this thing to you. But if you think about it, what entity or organization can have this level of sophistication when it comes to weaponry? What technology, what entity can just have directed energy weapons like that? What kind of entity can have DARPA-like sophisticated neurotechnology unless they are connected to the Department of Defense? Then you see who's involved. Like, oh my gosh, there's no way these people are involved. That there's no way that these people involved in this program it's their money. Like, it's obvious that a governmental entity is running the show. These people are just perhaps the people implementing it. You see them like, oh my gosh, for sure there's governmental entities running this program. If anything, this purpose make it more obvious, because you know you will never ever be able to do this thing to me, never. So it's obvious that this is a governmental entity. And then you find out that for years, DARPA has been working on technology that can alter the mind since the 60s. And then you hear all the testimonies of people saying that, you know, this is happening to us. Matter of fact, the bioethic committee in 2011, the first one, there was a bunch of target individuals from all around the country saying this is happening to us. The Department of Defense we're seeing this the type of technology that Navy and other Department of Defense entities are using. And it's being applied onto us. Of course, it's not going to be this next door neighbor doing that to me. They can make themselves talk in every tonality. It's so gimmicky to hear a childlike individual to be like, yeah, it's worse. And they talk to you via voice to skull, which is another Department of Defense technology. Now, of course, their job is to make you believe this false reality is part of this cognitive warfare. They're supposed to make you believe that this is some satanical cult. It's this Russian government, this Chinese government. This is a group of... But the reality is, this is a governmental entity. And you, as a target individual, are supposed to fall into this bullshit reality. For me, it's been this like psyop of like, we're this like fierce femme fatale, we're avenging, we saw what you've done there, and this is our money, and it's bullshit. Matter of fact, the people who put me in this program, I think that's why they're using this psyop. I think that's why they're using this facade. It's funny, I was at a restaurant, somebody was like, oh my gosh, psyop. You know, like, really? Because you said it like that, I don't think this is psyop, this is a facade. What I mean by psyop is try to make you believe something else to create a facade. Right? This is renowned for this like intelligence community. But by saying psyops, it means they want you to think that what's happening to you is about this, but in reality, there's something behind it that's really the reason why it's happening to you. And every time they've been like trying to be super comical, you see what you see here, there? This is an actual bill. It's called the End National Defense Network Abuse. You look at that. This is in 2019. What he says there, and it's comical. This is just comical. They say that the DoD needs support because they're having a lot of issue with trafficking child pornography using the computer network of the DoD. That they don't have the resource to stop that. The DoD. It's super comical. Of course, they have beyond the resource. They have 100 billion times more than enough resources to stop that. The technology we're dealing with is coming from the DoD. I mean, they have technology that can literally, neurotechnology that rewires the brain today. You say they don't have the technology to stop their employee using their computers to download child porn and traffic that? You see how ridiculous it is? But I remember when I was at the airport, they're like, oh, there's so many pedophiles in this DoD. And I was like, and that was before I found out this bill. And I'm like, yeah, apparently there are so many. It's a big issue. Matter of fact, there's so many that's the reason why this bill was created and ended up passing is because Child Protective Services was reviewing all the computer network in all the United States of America. It was about 2,900. Guess what rank the DoD got? 19th out of 2,900. Now, it's obvious there's a lot of pedophiles in these entities, for sure. Because to be ranked this high shows that there is a lot. That means it's 1,000 or so in those DoD offices or the Pentagon offices. This is a comical bill. Well, of course, with the resources, the DoD have plenty. Jesus. And it's not even like they need the top-notch like technology to be able to stop this, because this is they're using their computer network to do these things. You think they don't have good tracking of what's going on in their computer network? But the PSYOP at one point was like, oh my God, there's so many. There's so many. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I found out there's actually that's extremely a lot. Like, there's a whole ranking about it. So there's always been a PSYOP to try to make you believe this bullshit. Do not subscribe, no matter how comically they say things. So, we're the PSYOP. I was like, really? Okay, you just say it like that, so now I'm not going to identify. Sorry, they tried to manipulate me to say that. Now I'm not going to see the obvious PSYOP, the facade that you create. Of course I know. There's a lot of pedophiles, and I know these governmental entities running this program are the one with the issue with pedophilia. And I know you want me to believe that this is anything but this massive government that's been ranked 19th out of 2,900 in regard of child pornography trafficking. I don't care who right now they're making noise campaign, making their dog barks. That shows like what they try to do, try to disorient me. It is embarrassing. But that's reality. I hope you can capture this noise campaign. They have their dogs bark in order to disorient me. Because the reality is, there's a lot of pedophiles in these agencies. And they do this pedophilia type of torture systematically. And they try to make you believe that this thing happening to you is coming from this rogue, radical organizations of strong protectors of women and children, and it's led by this feminist-like entity. Trash ass. First of all, let me just repeat something that I've said before. The people responsible for me being in this program are my employer, right? They had a lot of connection with governmental entities. They are big donors. They've made the mark in this country in so many ways. And they are very far from this progressive facade that these people are trying to present to me. Matter of fact, they are extremely conservative. And there's things in this country happening because they helped that happen. And so as I'm saying that, to disorient me, because they want to still present themselves in this bullshit storyline. It's like, oh, they're gonna fist you. You understand? Does not sound like a theater in order for me to believe in this bullshit. It's like a frustrated child who wants you to believe something that's not true. So, hey, no, look, they'll just, you know, that's how they do. And for me, what they tell me to disorient me, to confuse me, and to distract me, did you let me know, oh, you're going to be fisted, you're going to be tortured. Not saying that it's not going to happen to me. Matter of fact, I think it's going to happen to me for the theater of it all. Because the humiliation of reality, through my time being manipulated and tormented, it's been over and over validations of what they do. Validation that this is what's causing this. Validation to who is running the show. Validation to who put you in the program, in this program. Validation to what they do to children, to what they do to women, how dangerous they are to women, how dangerous they are to children, what they've caused, the horrible things that have happened, the mass shootings because of this trash. So what they're gonna do? Oh no, we're gonna frame you, then you're gonna be tortured, they're gonna cut you in pieces, then they're like, there is no torture that can take away reality. There is nothing that they can change that's gonna make what is obvious. That the people running this program have problem pedophilia, meaning that they have issues in these offices, in the Pentagon, in the DoD, which are obviously those entities running this program, this bullshit psyop facade, where I'm supposed to believe there's some rogue, femme fatale, radical, protectors of children, progressive, are the one running this program, and it's their money. These people cannot even say the first and last. There's some restriction for this purpose. They can say anything. They can say, there's no limit usually. But, which I find it fair. And it's a blessing because it helps me not fall into that gaslighting and facade. They can't say the name of this man who used to pick up kids when he was 35 years old from the YMCA. And I'm like, if you are this feminist, progressive, and it's your money, say that man's first and last name. What's restricting you? I know there's probably a reason behind why they cannot say that, because I know the people running this program are governmental entities. Of course I know. It's sad for them that they can't say the name of somebody they make fun of for allegedly when he was a 35-year-old banned from the YMCA because he was picking up kids. But that adds to the reality of what they are. Now, the way they're going to compensate with that is how I'm going to be tortured. Because they've been humiliated by reality. To find out there's a whole bill called National Defense Network Abuse Act that is supposed to help the DoD that has $900 or so billion dollars per year as a budget, but somehow do not have the resources to limit the amount of child porn they're downloading using their computer network. These people who are supposed to be here mapping trash us. Then you hear the program of Project Pandora, which shows that the DARPA has been working on technology that can alter the mind since the 60s. Alter the mind, meaning change it. And then you have the validation that they have this systematic tactics of making people lose their mind by manipulating their brain, using cognitive technology that can rewire the brain. And they clearly say that once your target, that this person who, and I'm sorry because it confuses my brain, and obviously this technology is kind of destroying me, but I'm going to be as articulate as I can. That majority of the target individual put in this program, majority of men and women who are test subject, all have said, or almost all of them, and this is out of 1,000, said that almost all of them have been forced to see child porn in their mind. Others have clearly said that they do this pedophilia type of torture. Others said they've been rewired to think in this pedophilia ways. Others have been saying that they force them to have sexual stimulation toward children. Now, at that point, you get it. Pedophilia is a tool in this program to break people down. And so, you know yourself already. And so, on top of being aware that you will never respond these ways unless somebody making you experience things using technology that can manipulate your brain. But on top of that, hearing the same people describing the things that you are going through, literally saying the same thing as you, is enough validation to be like, okay, well, there's a pattern here. They are manipulating us in these ways, and it's supposed to break us down. And the truth is, that is exactly what they do. This pedophilia type of torture is a tactic that is meant to break the target individual down. And it truly does that, because even I got to the point where I was close to break down, to the point of even almost going through with something, do something to myself. To the point I got to the point of writing a letter, a suicide letter. Because I was like, I'd rather die than become whatever these people want me to be. But then I realized there's been people who've gone through this for years. Why would I be the one, be that fragile that I'll kill myself when this woman has been going through for this X amount of years and with worse things? The testimonies of others have given me strength to maintain and stay strong. And matter of fact, made me even love myself more than ever, because I'm like, thank you, God. I could have been living life like this bottom feeders, this weird low life, weak low life, that find the empowerment of what they do because they're involved in a program where DoD technology, DoD sponsored program, can empower them by letting them implement this technology onto us, test subjects, and enjoying the feeling they get because they are involved in a program that use human beings as test subjects. And this weak low life, and they have to be weak and low lives to enjoy this, or to find strength in this at least. Because the person that can interact with you via voice to call is some trash wearing some PJs or in the most comfortable state and talking to you and just like, yeah, we're gonna watch you die. It's like, and the truth is, yes, all these horrible things will happen to you, but that's because they're in a program that does these horrible things to people. And because this is a program that is ran by governmental entities, the Department of Defense, which you see here, the issues they have. And that's the reason why it's happening to you. I'm drying up right now. My body feels dry. My skin is drying up. And the reason why I'm drying up is because DoD technology is being implemented on me. So what they're doing to me is done to me because they're in a program where they're using test subjects to develop this technology that can dry you up, that can manipulate your brain, that can do the horrible thing to your organs. But this is also applied to women and children. And because the truth is, to develop this technology, they need to do that toward human beings. And they need to do that to all kinds of human beings, from the babies, the adults, to the older men, women, different cultures. And this is why they do these things to us. But the psyop is supposed to make you believe that these people are here investigating all these BS stories. But the truth is, you're not being investigated. You're being manipulated. What they're investigating is how to manipulate human beings. How they can alter your mind in the most efficient way. How they can manipulate you. This is what they're analyzing. The most efficient way of tormenting a human being with the manipulation this technology is capable of doing. That's what it's really about. But they try to make you believe. That's why they come up with this logic that now what we were doing, we were just looking at how you react to things, and based on that, this and that. It's a bullshit story. They've been altering the mind for years. And that means the memories, the thoughts, all that. Manipulated 24/7. Matter of fact, you're not even just manipulated, you're conditioned. And there's people around you 24/7 to continuously agitate you, to push you into that tormenting state in order for you to accept these things. Now, I know there'll be a time when I will not be able to speak. Even right now, speaking is a struggle. I feel myself drying up. And all these things that I know is because of this governmental entity doing these things to me. I will have no doubt about that. Now, the people around you that you work with, that you interact with, they're all part of it. And they have to create an ecosystem for you to accept these things. If everybody make it seem like they think that what you're experiencing is just is you naturally experiencing that, you're supposed to be identifying, maybe, you know what, if everybody's acting this way, maybe it is just me. That is gaslighting, but on another level. It's like me implanting drugs on you and have everybody around you say, oh my God, he's a drug dealer, look. And we all know that we are implanted that there. It's part of this psychological warfare that we go through. So we get the manipulations, and then we have the people around you, the ecosystem that you have to make you believe these things. Now we please you. For example, I just saw not too long ago, I'm purchasing this lamp. One of these pictures is a mother reading a story to a child, a little girl, a little toddler in her bed and everything. Very wholesome. For me, the little girl, the little toddler, forced me to get sexual stimulation. They've been making me have this nasty reaction since August 19, 2019. And they're like, no, what we did is we mapped your brain. That's how you experience things when you were a kid. No. First of all, listen to how retarded they want you to be and how they want you to be accepting of this manipulation. You are making me a child. You who do the pedophilia type of torture. And they're like, no, but remember what you did as a kid. It's like, first of all, I never reacted this way. What I did as a child is what an impulsive kid can do, which you have to exaggerate. But I'm a grown man. I'm a grown adult. And I've heard of the enough validation that not only I know this is not how we experience naturally, but on top of that, I have people saying the same thing. I heard the testimonies of people saying the exact same thing, which you're going to hear too. And these people investigating, look at the issues they have. These people not only do the pedophilia type of torture, but the governmental entities that run this program have big problem of pedophilia, to the point where child porn is being trafficked using the computer networks of the DoD. Can you only imagine what is not even being, the child porn not even, that they don't even use the computer networks of the DoD? If just looking at the computer network of the DoD and seeing the issue with child porn there, can you imagine the private computers of these employees working for the DoD? Can you imagine what's going on there then? So for me, these people will gaslight you in every ways to make you believe and to make you identify with this manipulation, which I will never. I know that today I will never be able to look at a child, especially a little girl, without being forced by this technology to give me disgusting reactions, stimulations, or whatever else. And this is supposed to push me into insanity. And some target individual lost their mind to the point of killing people because they wanted to end this tormenting torture. And the way they figured how to end this, it's not only suicide, but also causing mass shooting, which will end up with being dead. So they killed others. Many, 18 died. The last mass shooting, the last huge mass shooting, the largest mass shooting of 2023, which was about 5 months ago. 18 died. A child died. Other get, grazed by bullets. So I understand why they do these things to me. I'm supposed to identify to this. They tell you, kill yourself. It's like, no, you know what? Now that I know what this is about, I gotta be strong. If I end up killing myself, that's because I'm being tortured to that point. But I'm thankful to God for giving me the chance to see things for what they are. For however long I get to see these things. But look at this low life and the issues. This is why I'm thankful to God. Because as they were trying to make me believe that now what we're doing is making you think about it, and make you think the way you thought when you were a child, and we're mapping your brain, and we're investigating this and that. This is the reality of what's going on in these DoD entities. It is disturbing to see these issues. And this is specific to the computer networks of the DoD. This is not saying, we're going to start investigating employees' private computers. To my target individuals, stay strong. By listening to the obvious validation that we have here.
Investigation for links to the proliferation of graphic material. Called Project Flickr, some 5,000 individuals have been identified as having subscriptions to child porn sites, including many DoD-affiliated persons. So this ongoing national investigation has now prompted the House to introduce a bipartisan bill that would help the DoD stop the use of its network to, quote, possess, procure, or produce child pornography. Joining us to discuss this, investigative journalist Ben Swan. So Ben, the Pentagon already takes measures to limit worker access to stuff like porn by rolling out what they call the Personal Electronic Device PED policy, where workers have to drop off their phones and lockers before entering their offices. All their online searches are accessible by security if or when needed. Their Wi-Fi access is monitored in digital security sweeps. So how is this happening?
Well, it's happening because even though there is a certain amount of limitation on access, those who are working in the Department of Defense, clearly it appears to be thousands of individuals in the Department of Defense, are finding ways around this, specifically by using the Department of Defense IP addresses and also apparently peer-to-peer sharing within the department's network. So this study that was done on this issue, and it is pretty horrifying, Manila, to consider this. It shows that the Department of Defense ranked 19th out of almost 3,000 networks in terms of peer-to-peer sharing of child pornography. That is absolutely incredible. This bill attempts to essentially say, look, we're not doing enough to stop it from coming in, but we're also not doing enough in the Department of Defense to go after those individuals who are being recognized as the ones who were perpetrating this.
So Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger is the co-author to this bill. She said this, quote, the notion that the Department of Defense's network and Pentagon-issued computers may be used to view, create, or circulate such horrifying images is a shameful disgrace and one we must fight head on. Now, the fact that the Pentagon workers, be they civil or military or otherwise, already submit to a gauntlet of daily scrutiny just going in and out of work, is it fair then to the tens of thousands who are completely innocent to further allow that much more government intrusion into their digital devices or the things that they're dealing with on their computers?
Well, remember that what's being talked about here is not an intrusion into someone's personal device or even their home. This is about saying Department of Defense computers are being misused to share, to spread, to access child pornography. And when you step into an office, whether it's a Department of Defense office or it's the offices at RT America, wherever you go into an office, you do not have the right to simply use the technology within that office space however you want. And you certainly don't have the right to use it in a criminal manner. So essentially this bill is trying to do, again, two things. It's trying to limit that and crack down on the misuse of those computer systems, but it's also also is going after those individuals. One of the things that this bill attempts to do, and there's a Senate version of it put together by Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, but essentially what these two bills are trying to do is say, look, the Department of Defense does not have an adequate way of responding to this, of tracking down and investigating who as an individual is misusing these computers, who is sharing these pornographic images of children, who is sending them to whom. And so one of the things it does is the bill actually opens up civilian law enforcement to come in and to work with the Pentagon and with the DoD to actually investigate and to track down who is misusing, again, these computers for this purpose. So the bill, it's about more than just stopping it. It's about going after those who have been perpetrating it, who so far aren't being gone after.
Now, Ben, you and I, obviously, we're both parents here, and this is something that is terrifying, I think, to anybody that is a parent. What about the bigger... Infuriating. I mean, it's disgusting and maddening. The bigger picture here, Ben, how do we, the people, crack down on this? It's a disgusting crime. How is this continuing to proliferate in a day where they can track your every movement and what you do?
Well, because clearly in this case, these are the people who are helping to do the tracking. I know NSA and a lot of these civilian agencies do, but when you reach a certain point within these military spaces, a lot of these people apparently feel that they can go untouched. And so far, they pretty much have. About 80% of the cases where child pornography has been sent through these DoD servers have not been prosecuted, have not even been looked at or tracked down. 80% of them, Manila. So the majority of the people who are doing this through the Department of Defense are not having to pay any kind of price for it. I think this is a very serious issue, but it's also an issue that we need to recognize is a very real issue.
Yeah.
When people talk about child pornography or predators out there, we are being limited to a discussion of that, the creepy person who lives in a certain house, and that's where we want to talk about it. But when we talk about it on a bigger spectrum, military, government, those who are in power, people don't want to discuss it. It's a very real issue.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that there's some 25,000 people that go in and out of the Pentagon every single day. And a lot of these, I mean, they have to have some level of clearance to begin with. But I think some of the people that are not being prosecuted are some of the ones who have the highest clearances in this country. So that's kind of a scary thing to think about.
Some of these people we know have the highest classification in terms of classified access to information and material, and that's pretty scary.
That is scary that some of those people might be these gross individuals sharing this kind of information. All right, Ben Swan, as always, appreciate your take on this. Thank you.
Why are so many pedophiles allowed to be given top-level security clearance? Remember, these aren't just people walking in off the street and saying, hey, can I get hired? Can I get a job? You're put through an extremely rigorous background check screening process. It's called an SSBI, single scope background investigation. There are people, they interview you, they interview your family, they interview your contacts, they go through your online footprint, they go through everything. So why is it that when they're going through these footprints, they're not checking, these digital footprints, they're not checking for so many pedophiles getting through their ranks? If it were up to me, you need to go into Congress, and Congress needs to launch a brand new church committee, number one, to talk about domestic surveillance operations, but number two, to ask the question, why are there so many pedophiles sitting behind
sensitive secrets, potentially making this... The Defense Department releasing brand new details into an investigation involving child pornography and dozens of its workers and contractors, some with top-level security clearance. Not only are these very serious accusations, but investigators say some of the people involved were handling the nation's most sensitive secrets, potentially making this a matter of national security. Chief Fox Report correspondent Jonathan Hunt with the news. Appalling story, Jonathan. Do we know more about these people and their security clearances?
Well, we don't know their exact job titles, John, but what we do know is that they did appear to be working, some of them, at high levels across a range of government agencies. Take a look at this, for instance, the National Security Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, and the very secretive Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency.
In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. The project reportedly ended in 1969, but DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain continues to this day. Mind can be altered. In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior.
So they'll say, we're the Russian government, we're the Chinese government, we're evil aliens, we're Satan's, satanic ritual abuse. And I've heard all the stories. One guy believed it was some 14-year-old kid with an Xbox that lived next door. The trickery really is that great when you're under hypnosis that people will believe something other than a massive government could do this. Natural schizophrenia, there's a whole bunch of chemical imbalances,
right,
etc.
Right.
These weapons can actually induce and mimic all those diseases and effects. But the conversations, the scripts they're called, are always the same. And I've heard them all. They're slightly tailored for each individual, but they're scripts. And they're meant to confuse the very derogatory. That's just typical breakdown. If you ever been to boot camp, you're a warrior example of the population in all languages, all cultures, in order for a worldwide weapon of an AI system that can interact with every human brain. For example, when you develop a new drug, well, you have a control group, and then you give the placebo, and then you have the actual drug experiment in order to do a double-blind study. Right. So why me? I'm nobody. Well, that's exactly probably why they chose you.
Right, but
this is part of the reason of the breakdown, the torture that TIs are experiencing, is they have to break down the ego in order to be part of a greater mind or mind controlled.
This is a paranoid schizophrenia, but first of all, nobody develops paranoid schizophrenia in the 50s, in their 50s. This is, if you haven't developed it by 30, it's not. Then this technology exists. These nefarious programs exist, and it's hard to imagine for a person that why would you do something like this? But if you think about the new type of warfare,
cognitive warfare.
Exactly, it's a cognitive warfare. You don't have to kill people that you are fighting against. You can just degrade their brain. You can
you alter their minds.
Yeah, alter their minds,
personalities.
And it's like
breakdown tactic of belief systems into human will. In no-touch torture, the techniques are more psychologically specialized for each target. Most common examples include homosexual targets that are forced with voices that are derogatory to their lifestyle and similar mental images. Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds, and vice versa.
As malodorants. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture, including the threat of planted dreams and videos in my highly disturbing pornographic images and videos, including highly disturbing pedophilia type of images and videos when I close my eyes.
It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophiles. Like, it's disgusting things. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they do it. I don't care. I don't know if it's through weapons. I don't know.
Ben said the slaves began a program of perversion. First was with my dog. I am very playful with my pet, and suddenly one day that I was petting him I felt strange, in the sense of the word. I thought, this is strange, and then afterwards that strange sensation continued. Then in that moment I realized that was impost, so I thought, look at this losers, don't know how to put me down, and they are doing this. So I told them that I know what you are trying to do, and I started laughing. And then I said again out loud, you'll never take my will, ASS. So just to show them that I meant what I said, I kept playing with my dog, and even though that attacks continue, I don't let them get me. Today, they continue with the programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use of people, better said young people, also children and homosexuals.
This technology can be used to sexually manipulate the target. It can make the target feel sexual arousal.
This involves the projection of voices, noises, and music directly into my mind to communicate with me in real time and at the speed of thought. And it also includes the manipulation of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in the person's mind. Additionally, the targeting is all highly perverted and sexual, as well as just
Week from New York Times. I'm Michael Barbaro. This is The Daily. Today, the mass shooting that occurred in Maine last week, killing 18 people, was the country's deadliest of the year. It may also have been one of the most avoidable.
When the local police are really made aware that this guy is a concern is about 5 months ago in May, when his ex-wife and teenage son go to a school resource officer, and the school resource officer calls down a sheriff's deputy to speak with the family. And in that interview, the teenage son and the ex-wife say that he has started to hear voices. He started to be increasingly paranoid and angry. They also note he has collected about 10 to 15 guns that he kept at a relative's house and brought them back to his. So they're going to the police and saying that he has access to a large number of firearms.
What happens next?
So the next thing we know that happens is in July. Card travels with his reserve unit to West Point, New York for an annual training exercise. And there's a very concerning incident that takes place. They're all hanging out together at a motel, and he starts accusing them of calling him a pedophile.
Others wounded. The first 911 call coming in around 7 p.m. from a local bowling alley that was hosting a youth night for a kids' bowling league.
We have an active shooter. We have multiple injuries.
Authorities releasing these surveillance images showing the suspect they're looking for. His name is Robert Card, and he's pictured armed with an AR-15 style rifle.
Mr. Card is considered armed and dangerous, and police advise that named people should not approach him under any circumstances.
Megan Hutchinson and her 10-year-old daughter Zoe were at the bowling alley. Zoe's leg grazed by a bullet.
I never thought I'd grow up and get a bullet in my leg. Why? Why do people do this?
After allegedly shooting several...
I was a mentally unstable individual.
This shotgun is the primary murder weapon. On it, he etched a number of carvings, including "End to the Torment," "Better Off This Way," and "My ELF Weapon." Alexis had been hearing voices and believed he was being bombarded by microwaves, something naval authorities knew about.
There are multiple indicators that Alexis held a delusional belief that he was being controlled or influenced by extremely low frequency, or ELF, electromagnetic waves.
And in his computer files, the FBI found this.
A document retrieved from the electronic media stated, quote, "Ultra-low frequency attack is what I've been subject to for the last 3 months. And to be perfectly honest, that is what has driven me to this."
And so on what should have been a routine day, Alexis killed 12 people. Mothers, fathers, sons, daughters.
Diane, they never had a chance, and still no answers as to why so many red flags were missed.
As you say, so many red flags.
Spent here in New Mexico.
As sick as this may sound, I've even had stalkers follow me into church while I was in Las Cruces and in Houston. I've had stalkers follow me into church to harass me.
May had worked as a prosecutor in Las Cruces just weeks before the shooting. In his last words, May speaks of his paranoia and coins himself as a targeted individual who's been a victim of stalking and harassment. He talked about a trip to Houston where he said cars would drive by and honk their horns every 10 minutes to keep him on the edge and agitated.
Father, forgive me for what I'm about to do. Forgive me for all of my sins, past sins, present sins, any future sins.
Research. I too believe my experience is referred to as no-touch torture, utilizing defense technologies. Jonathan Marino, he basically predicted all this a number of years ago in his book Undue Risk. I'm asking you to help initiate a congressional investigation. We've all come a long way. This is what is needed. We want to have the accounts of this extreme human rights abuse that's going on in our country documented and heard, all of the accounts. We also need what was done during the Clinton administration, which is a major declassification of some of these documents that are hiding what's been going on. I speak for many when I say we've suffered long enough. My personal experience has been 10 years. I've been vilified. I've been ostracized. I've been tortured. I have burns on my body. I'm an American. I have rights. The answer to the question, the big question today, could it happen today? The answer is yes, it is happening today. It is happening for some of us every day. I am begging for you to help us. Thank you.
Ms. Catherine Nestor.
My name is Catherine Nestor, and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here that is very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this. I ask Dr. Amy Gutman to begin today. There is new work for the Commission for Human Subject Protection on our shores. And please give us a dramatic response, Susan. And please give us a congressional hearing. Thank you.
A speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic, and they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions and had been making incredible progress on all of her therapy goals. This was used to threaten extreme torture on me, making me scream and cry, etc. They would make the kids act out the kinds of torture that would later be done on me. For example, they would also sometimes make her bite her hand, threatening to make me bite my hands, as they often do. One day, she had a large, severe bite mark on her arm. She has also grabbed her crotch, saying, "Ow," and this was used to threaten me with severe sexual torture. One day, I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. And I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, "ow." I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions for each of them during their separate sessions. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe pain. I asked him what was wrong and if he needed to use the restroom, but he said no to having to use the restroom and was not able to verbalize anything more due to his language delay. He looked puzzled and bewildered. Even though I had stated that it was time to do more work right before this incident, I quickly just let him play another game, and he quickly returned to his joyful, happy self.
And have had a decent education. I live in El Dorado Hills, California, with my wife of 14 years, Lorna, and our 5 children. Nicole is 15, Patricia 14, Christopher 13, Dylan 9, and Avery 16 months old. Not only have I been going through this, but my entire family has suffered right by my side. We have all experienced the same type of harassment on different levels. We have all suffered the same symptoms while this harassment was going on. Some of our physical symptoms include severe tooth decay and vision loss, unexplained rashes and burns, severe headaches, mood swings, anxiety, thyroid problems, high blood pressure, heart problems, vision loss, and cancer. Two of my children were born premature, which I attribute to this. Our son Dylan, now age 9, was born very premature. He was born at 31 weeks. During her pregnancy with Dylan, we were being targeted more so than other times. At the delivery, there were weird men walking and waiting around the hospital. Right outside our delivery room window, there was a white cargo van parked with 2 suspicious men inside. They were there the entire labor, a delivery. Our son had to be transported to another hospital 45 minutes away. When arriving to the Toa hospital, those same men and van were present. Three of my children have severe rashes that have not been explained by several doctors. These rashes have been present for several years at a time. If interested, I will gladly furnish you with detailed photos of the rashes. Our infant daughter, at 3 weeks old, was diagnosed with Lerner's syndrome. This was after a severe rash appeared on her body after a few days of torture. We were told by a couple doctors to take her home and love her and spend the rest of the time we have with her. They told us she would ultimately die from this syndrome. Thank God that Lerner's syndrome was not what affected our daughter. Doctors are still dumbfounded by her rash and symptoms. Sadly, we know that her symptoms were effects from the torture this poor innocent 3-week-old baby endured. Recently, I lost complete time. I exhibited the flashing lights. My 9-year-old son Dylan complained about the lights. You will often hear that vision is something that is greatly affected with this type of torture.
And I am a victim of organized stalking, electronic harassment, microwave torture, V2K abuse, and I'm asking you to help us end this crime against humanity, which has impacted men, women, children all around the world.
Hi, I'm Wan from Malaysia. My family are targeted individuals. We are victims of cyber torture. And I will not give up. I will fight to the end.
And I'm a victim of organized
We need this to stop.
electronic harassment. And I'm speaking to you on International Targeted Individual Day. I live in the U.S., in Illinois.
But I was going to be shot in the face. And it was an older guy. He was like really, really disgruntled and pissed off. Yeah, you're going to be shot in the face. You know, sound like an angry ass old person. You know, then a couple of days later, a female said the same thing. Don't get shot in the face. You know, stupid shit like that. But what I really noticed is with the voices go, it's a bunch of females. You know, and I'm like, bro, really? You're not a woman. What? Or sit back and allow that to go on. You really think they think it's nothing wrong with them, basically.